I emptied out my nature journal kit on the table because I'm washing my messenger bag that I use for holding all this stuff when I go out in the field and when I go to museums and when I do all of my drawings. So I decided, well, I'm going to look at what I have in here and make some choices and improvements and talk about which things that I really like having. So I'm going to start off with my Pentel Aquash watercolor brushes. So these things are great, and I usually carry two, and I carry the large size, both of them. They last for a while. You fill them up with water. Having two is nice in case something happens to the other one, and I use these for all of my watercolor. They're really great. The other thing that I use the most, and I usually have two of them in my kit but don't right now because one broke, is these Pentel Click .7 mechanical pencils, and I think I have 2B lead in here, and I use these for pretty much all of my drawing. So those tools are some of the ones that I use the most, and then right next to those would be my John Muir Laws watercolor palette, and this is the whole bean palette, and most of these colors are the original ones that John Muir Laws provides, and they're really great. Most of them are Daniel Smith with a few exceptions, and this is sort of the explanation of what's what here, but this is it that I use for all of my watercolor, and it works really great in the field. I also have paper here, scrap paper, that I use for cleaning my brush. Right now I need to obviously change this out and probably clean my palette a little bit, but putting in some thick watercolor paper would be good there. But those are the basic things these are the three things that I use the most as far as drawing tools go. And then besides drawing tools, the most important things for me lately have been these clips that I use for keeping my journal pages flat when it's windy. These clips are super useful. So I have two minimum, but three is good, and I have one of these smaller ones which I don't really use that much. Next to those, in terms of how much I use it, are probably my earplugs. So when I go to the aquariums or zoos or museums or even other places, I use these earplugs to help me focus on the drawing and what I'm doing. Usually don't use these when I'm out in nature, but these are super useful to have, and I really like this 3M type. They're foam, not silicone. These are the best earplugs I've ever had, and when I travel abroad, these are really useful on planes and in hostels, and having them in my kit is the main bag that I carry with me all the time when I travel in other countries or in the tropics. Next important things, well, to go with that one are my earbuds so that I can listen to music, which also helps for focusing if I'm at an aquarium or a museum or something like that. So those are important non-drawing tools. Backup lead for my mechanical pencil. I usually try to have backup of everything. And also very important, and I need to replace, is to have a little bit at least of paper towel that I can clean my brush on or dry out my palette if I need to. Okay, now going into things that I don't use as much. I have been using this a little bit lately. This is the Pentel Presto Jumbo Correction Pen with the fine point, and it's a great whiteout pen that you can use for bringing in opaque whites to your watercolors. So I've been using this lately for ocean spray on top of the blues and greens that the ocean water is. So getting some of that foam with this white, it's good for highlights, but this is the pretty big size. The other good one is I think it's the Uniball Signo white gel pen. And there's a lot of these that are really bad, so finding the good ones is important. I probably bought like 6 before I found the good ones. And then coming in even after that is this eraser. I realize I pretty much never use this, I have a roll of duct tape in there just in case there's an emergency, I guess. I don't really ever use that. I decided to put a little piece of a cut-up credit card in there. Some people use a piece of cut-up credit card for doing special techniques with their watercolor to get white highlights. I haven't used it since I put it in there. Don't know what that's for. An extra one maybe for my palette. This is a measuring tape that John Muir-Laws gave me. It's really good. It's got inches and metric. And it has also the I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of mantra on there. I actually have not been doing very much measuring lately in my nature journaling, not that much quantifying. And this is a goniometer, measures angles, and also has a ruler. I have not been using either of these things very much lately. One of these Tombow pens, a very pale color, and these are useful for certain things, but I haven't been using them very much. They're water soluble. They have a brush tip, which is the main one I use, and then they also have a felt tip. They come in some nice pale colors that I like. And I also have these, which are one of my favorite tools, but also can be the messiest. It looks like one is exploding right here, but I don't even understand how it's coming apart right there, but it is leaking. And these things are great for doing bold brush work, and I believe this is the supposedly less water-soluble ink, the pigment ink, I believe it's called. And these are really great for doing borders and doing text and doing nice brush stroke and solid black. They're also very messy, and I end up not using them that much lately. They're kind of slow to dry, and in some ways not quite worth the effort. I had one of these explode on a plane before, and yeah, they're not the best for traveling with. I also have a Prismacolor very thin colored pencil in here in a brown color. These are useful. These very thins are the ones that have the harder lead, so that is useful for outlining things. And I originally put it in there to draw skulls or tracks, but haven't been using it very much lately. I also have these two water-soluble ink tints pencils by Derwent, and these are really great. And I especially like these sort of warm reds, sort of toned red colors. Those are my favorite, or some of the earth tones, and they're really great for drawing tracks because just with this pencil combined with your Pentel Aquash water brush, you can get a lot of nice marks and gradations and even washes. So it's very good for doing sort of monotone drawing. Also very good combination for figure drawing. But I haven't been using them that much lately. I've just been defaulting to graphite and watercolor. So it's one thing to consider is looking through your kit, you see what have I been using lately, and then you can make decision, is it worth it to really try to incorporate this technique more, or should I just eliminate it and streamline my kit even more? But at the very least, you could figure out what are the things that you use 80% of the time and what are the things that you only use 20% of the time. Here I have one of these Fresnel lenses. It's a type of magnifying glass about the size of a credit card. Really cool and neat magnifying glass, but I probably have used this thing once in the last like 3 years of nature journaling. And sticky notes are really useful. Probably this kind is good for putting notes into parts of your nature journal or for dog-earing pages. I have used this a little bit. This is some really nice gouache. That's acrylic gouache, so it's practically like an acrylic paint. It's very opaque. I've used this a couple times to paint in white water instead of using the Presto. So you should probably have one thing like this in your kit for doing white highlights. It can be very useful. Then I have some plant that I picked up somewhere and was going to plant, but it's all dried out now. And I have a little bit of emergency soluble vitamin drink mix, which is kind of nice to have. And then flyers for my nature journaling club that I lead in Northern California, and a quarter. So basically just wanted to give you an idea of what I have been carrying in my kit lately. I was cleaning it all out so that I could wash the messenger bag, and figured it would be a perfect time to talk about what's in there. So comment below if this has been useful. If you have any ideas or suggestions, send me a video of what you have in your kit. I'd love to hear some comments about what other watercolorists and other nature journalists use in their kit, and what are their favorite pieces of equipment. Alright, see you next time.